Welcome everybody to DynamicsCon 2022, the SPS Commerce EDI session. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. And although we may not be here in person or even live, we definitely are live on the chat. So as soon as you have any questions, certainly put them in the chat and we will answer them in real time. A couple of introductions before we get to the agenda. My name is Judy Weston. I work with all of our partners and our customers who are running a Dynamics product. Along with me, you will meet two people who are near and dear to my heart, as well as coworkers. Kimber Young, who is a senior sales leader, works with buying organizations to automate the procure-to-pay process. And Sean Martin, who will be walking us through a demo. He is a senior product specialist on the Microsoft Market team, so you will be seeing their smiling faces soon. So the agenda for today: procure-to-pay challenges, how our full service EDI solution solves for those, and then the demonstration by the one and only Sean Martin. So if that sounds like what you signed up for today, let's get started. Just a couple of stats on our footprint within the Microsoft channel. We've been working with the Microsoft partnership for 25 years. Kind of in case you missed it, news in December of 2020, SPS Commerce acquired Data Masons, which was the culmination of a decade-long partnership together. Back in 2020, things moved so fast. We had about 140 people on what we call the Microsoft Market team now. We are now about 225. We support 1,800 customers. We have over 50 automated documents in production. And we work with not only the AX and F&O series, but also with the Business Central and NAV. So we round out the entire Microsoft Market. And here's a snapshot of our footprint within the global EDI community. So we have been building the largest trading partner network for the past 2 decades. So if we could rewind 20 years ago, where I'd like to tell myself to wear more sunblock, but rewind that to 20 years ago on the EDI time. And when we went to connect our first customer to Walmart, what we did was we reached out to Walmart. We figured out how they wanted to connect, whether that's via AS2, API, FTP, and then we gathered their specifications and we built out maps to every document type. And what we did from there was rather unique in the market, in that when it came to connect our second company to Walmart, we didn't build another set of maps. We just reused those same maps. So what that means, fast forward 20 years and 3,000 buying organizations later, we now have the world's largest network of over 80,000 pre-mapped connections. And along the way, we picked up about 1,000 third-party logistics companies that were connected to and pre-wired to as well. So this is kind of like the footprint of SPS and where we see ourselves within the supply chain for our customers. We are the one connection to our customers' network. So imagine on the left-hand side of the screen, which is kind of what we've been known for, or what we've talked about a lot at DynamicsCon in the past, 6 sessions that we've done, where we're connecting our customers to their trading partner network. So imagine, getting your orders from Dick's Sporting Goods or Shopify or eBay automated into your instance of Microsoft Dynamics, NAV, or Business Central. We also then connect those orders to their third-party logistics providers as well. However, today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. And this is something that SPS has been doing for the past 2 decades. A lot of our customers don't think of themselves as buying organizations. They think of themselves as suppliers and automating that order process. But today, we're going to talk about the procure-to-pay process. So whether you are a company that sends email orders to 3 suppliers, or you have 3,000 suppliers, or anywhere in between there, we can automate that process for you, which is why I've invited Kimber Young to walk through that process. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kimber.
Awesome. Thank you, Judy. And hello to everybody. Thanks for joining us and tuning in today. So let's first talk about why companies initially come to SPS in the first place. And usually it's in one of these three categories you see. There's a compliance ask of one of their key partners. There's a strategic initiative around growth and the need to quite simply be more efficient. Or there's a system change, which is very common, that triggers adding in other solutions to help maximize that shift, such as, say, moving to or upgrading to Dynamics Business Central. And so companies are coming to SPS to then help them because of these reasons. And on the surface, a lot of these can feel like, okay, well, SPS, we're going to partner with you for this technology project. But ultimately, what we're going to talk about here today and the solution that SPS can provide to you as a buying organization is going to be essential for and impact the entire business. So let's take it a step further and walk through the challenges that buying orgs face and how SPS can actually solve for them. Judy hit the nail on the head. This is whether you have 3 suppliers, 300, 3,000, managing this ecosystem you see here with your suppliers can be really challenging. You've got your set of systems and processes, and then of course your suppliers have their own completely separate set of these things. And so the fact that 50% of your supply chain is out of your control really leads to the potential for failure points at every point in this order replenishment process you have with suppliers. So looking at that, it's really going to start with product data. It can be really challenging for buying organizations to get accurate, detailed, and timely product information updates from their supplier community, which that really starts the whole process. It can be very difficult to issue a purchase order out to a supplier if you don't even know what the heck you're ordering. So from there, the challenges continue. When a buying org issues that purchase order out to the supplier, oftentimes it can be really difficult to have any visibility into not just did my supplier receive the order, but can they ship complete? Can they ship on time? The buying org is left a little bit on their heels of not knowing or putting in extra effort to go track that information down. From there, when it comes time for the supplier to actually fulfill that order, there's a ton of lacking visibility around what's coming, when is it coming, how is it picked and packed. And so ultimately, when that order arrives at, say, a DC or a warehouse, the buying org is then scrambling to figure out, well, what did I get? Does it match what I ordered? I got to go get this on the shelves so that ultimately it can get out as soon as possible to that end customer or to that storefront, which can be incredibly difficult. And so with these challenges, that's not to say that buying organizations aren't actually working to try to find solutions. Everyone we talk to has one or several initiatives that they're working on to try to alleviate some of these challenges. We see that in the purchase of new technology, such as a WMS, or a lot of times over ordering to make sure that there's excess inventory so that they never face an out of stock and miss a sale. It could be around changing a process internally, or one of the most common mitigation tactics we see is actually just continuing to add staff to try to fix the problem, which is really challenging, as many of you probably know, in today's world of hiring new headcount. And so these can be, good steps in the right direction, but ultimately this leads us back to the fact that 50% of the supply chain lies outside of the buying organization's control. So if you're listening to this and feeling some of this, know that you're not alone. Over 90% of the buying organizations that we speak to feel they're not getting this mission critical information that they need to run more efficiently. So ultimately, this is resulting in some pretty significant business problems. And in SPS's 20 years of experience in working with thousands of buying organizations, we've actually been able to bucket these key challenges into 5 different categories. So that first one you'll see is reactive order management, taking you back to issuing that order out to the supplier and really having no visibility if they can ship complete and on time, putting the buying organization in a state of being reactive to either invest resources to go figure it out if they need a plan B, or just being in the dark and crossing their fingers. The second one you'll see there for buying organizations that house their own inventory. That can become really, really costly when inventory is inefficient and either not turning quickly enough, or the buying org is feeling the need to have a ton of excess safety stock because they don't ever want to miss a sale, tying a lot of budget up and having more inventory than they actually need. This third business problem we see, inaccurate invoicing, is one I hear of almost every single time. Our poor friends in accounts payable struggling when they receive an invoice to actually trust that it's accurate. Did they actually receive the product they're being invoiced for? And so they're stuck with two decisions: either trust and hope that the invoice is correct and potentially overpay, which can be costly, or spend valuable time and energy going to then manually track down and reconcile that invoice. The fourth challenge you'll see up there pertains to our customers. Everybody knows that the customer is the lifeblood of any business. And so with all the different opportunities for customers to go purchase different goods, whatever they may be, a poor customer experience can be really risky to losing customers. And then lastly, without this audit trail of all this data and visibility, it's really hard for buying organizations to partner with their suppliers and actually, manage when a supplier is consistently short shipping or late shipping and help manage through that bad behavior if they don't actually have the data supporting that. And so you may be feeling one or some of these things and know that it's a pain, but really the impact of these challenges run a lot deeper than many realize. It's not just adding an extra head count or having inefficient inventory. It can be costly to the point of, there's open to buy budget that you're not able to use, or an organization trying to pivot more into this dropship e-commerce world and it completely failing because margins are so slim and this is just too costly. And so ultimately what we see is these challenges cost up into the millions of dollars every year and really only compound as an organization continues to grow. So you're living some of this, I'm sure. You understand the challenges. We're not here for doom and gloom all day. Ultimately, the good news is SPS can provide a solution to help with all of these challenges. And so where we really focus at our core is enabling the exchange of this mission critical information across product data, order data, and sell-through data. And we're going to partner with you in what we would call a full service fashion, meaning we're not just going to give you a piece of technology that you need to go stand up. We're going to provide you with the people and the process along with the technology to make sure you're maximizing that value. So let's take this as a step deeper then, as you take a look at everything that needs to go into successfully implementing this. Again, whether we're talking 3 vendors or 30 or 300, of course, you need the technology component. And that's something that we're going to have Sean highlight towards the end here with the demo. But beyond that, you need a team of experts for the strategy and ultimate delivery of a solution like this. You need a team helping you go on board and engage and shepherd your suppliers through this process so that they're ready to go on their side. You need flexible solutions, both for yourself as well as for your supplier community. And then, of course, the preparation and launch all the way through to making sure that you're successfully operating. And that really takes a team of people backing you so that you can focus on what you do best and trust the experts to help you along the way. And so in SPS doing this for 20 plus years, what we've actually found is most solutions are only meeting part of the need. They may have a very shiny, pretty piece of technology, but ultimately then things start to go awry because they don't have that full service team with the expertise and the process for delivery and supplier onboarding all the way on through. So in order to get some of these results we've been talking about, there's really 4 key steps to our foundation. First, we're going to partner with you to identify where we actually start and what has the highest impact for your unique organization and needs. From there, we're going to work to identify what the right target audience is within your supplier community. And so we're going to take a data-driven approach to work really smart around which of your suppliers we're going to engage with and onboard, ultimately driving towards automating as close to 98% of your outbound PO volume as possible. We understand that this is a journey, and we also want to be, like I said, really smart about who we engage with and where we put our efforts into. I think we all know it can be really difficult to feel like you're going out to strong arm 100% of your vendors into this. So we'll partner with you and make sure we're working smarter, not harder. Third then is, of course, the individual consultation and education with each of those vendors on your behalf as an extension of your organization to gain their commitment and really drive that adoption and value for you and them. And then lastly, we're going to partner with you on making these internal changes within your organization now that you're going to have access to all this information you likely didn't have before directly within your Dynamics system. So I've touched on people, process, and technology. Let's take that one level deeper, starting with the team of people. You'll have a project team that's going to help you as well as ongoing 24/7 support. So if we look at that project team, you're going to have, of course, a project manager, somebody that you're aligning with to design the solution that meets your needs, and that's going to live within your Dynamics system, really connecting that system into the SPS network. You'll also have a program manager. Think of this person as a liaison between your organization and the folks at SPS that are calling on your vendors to make sure that, we just are acting as an extension of your brand and your organization, bringing back questions vendors have, concerns, making sure we're really aligned there. And then, of course, you'll have the actual team of people individually consulting with each one of your suppliers on your behalf throughout that process. Now, we know that these are your partners and you need to have visibility every step of the way. And so you'll have access to a platform that will give you real-time visibility into each individual supplier SPS is consulting with, so you can see where they're at in the process and if they have any questions. Now let's talk process. SPS, in doing this for 20 plus years, we have a proven best-in-class process that's going to utilize a suite of existing engagement tools to get suppliers onboarded in the most efficient way possible. And so this is going to include things like a white labeled webinar, website, email communications that are all going to be branded for you, but we've ultimately worked to perfect over time to make sure that there's really clear communications with your suppliers so they know what to expect, and ultimately that this is an initiative that your organization is driving. A really common concern, I hear this almost every time when working with different buying organizations is, well, what if I have suppliers that don't do EDI today? They don't even know how to spell EDI. It's just not worth it. There's no way. And so when partnering with SPS, you can feel really good knowing that, whether your supplier does EDI today, maybe outside of SPS with a different provider, or of course with SPS, or is completely new to EDI in general, we've got options that we'll talk them through as a part of onboarding that are completely flexible and are going to give them a choice in what works best on their end, whether they have a solution or they're completely new. So let's bring it all full circle. At the beginning, we talked about all these different potential failure points. Now, in an ideal state with this SPS solution for your Dynamics system and EDI with your suppliers, what we would look to do is have you create that order right within your Dynamics system and send it out. The supplier receives it. They can then, in a very timely fashion, report back to you on whether or not they can ship complete on time so that you're not in that reactive state. If for some reason you needed to make a change to that purchase order, you can start that audit trail and issue them a PO change to update that trail of the order process. Now, from there, they're actually going to go fulfill that order for you. They can give you a heads up, so your team is much more prepared on what to expect, when to expect it, how is it picked and packed, even down to the degree of receiving a label on a carton or pallet that you can scan to know exactly what's in that box when it hits your distribution center, for example. And then lastly, we can make our friends in finance much happier by receiving an invoice that they can then do a three-way match on, reconcile very quickly, and confidently know whether or not they should pay against that invoice or need to contact the supplier to make changes. So we've got people, we've got process. I'm going to actually pass it to one of our Dynamics wizards, Sean, to walk you through the technology behind this so you can see the cycle directly within Dynamics. Take it away, Sean.
All right. Well, excellent. Before we actually get into the product demonstration, just wanted to cover a couple of elements of how we actually integrate and automate with Business Central. So you're going to hear me refer to this concept of being tightly integrated, but yet loosely coupled. And really what that means to our customers, anybody that's moving to the cloud, especially D365 BC, is we're not going to make any core code changes within ERP to support the EDI environment. We actually take an external approach to EDI. We have our own data store that sits outside of ERP. So that way our customers are not having to, modify the core code of the Business Central solution as to not interfere with their ability to take the next release or next update, from Business Central. You're also going to see that within the solution, we also utilize Microsoft's best practices by introducing contextual hyperlinks within BC to give you that complete visibility that you're looking for from an EDI standpoint, but again, without modifying core code. We authenticate with Business Central through Azure Active Directory, AAD, and the integration layer that we support. It's an API connection. It's the OData integration framework, ultimately exchanging JSON messages to update the entities as well as the endpoints. For everybody that is working within the EDI environment, if EDI is functioning exactly the way it should be, nobody on your team should be thinking about EDI. However, from time to time, there are going to be exceptions. And when there are exceptions, typically it's going to be integrated related. So either missing data or bad data. So how do we communicate that to the right people? Well, we do this through the concept of management by exception. We can automate sending them emails to make sure it's clear communication. We can trigger text messages to the right people within your organization for that clear communication. We can also take our reports, exception reports, and we can automate the sending of those reports to make sure that it goes into the right people's hands for visibility. And then at the end of the day, we also do offer a dashboard that's going to bring everything back together for you. So just to go into the actual demonstration of Business Central with integrated procure to pay process, I thought I'd start with a purchase order. So right before the meeting, I came in and I created a new purchase order to send to your vendor. So in this case, utilizing General Electric. So I built out this purchase order. Now, going back to that concept of being tightly integrated, but yet loosely coupled, up here on the top, you're going to notice that you have this EDI tile. The EDI tile has a contextual hyperlink. So when I click on this, because I've already released this purchase order, we're actually going to pop open a browser. Now that the browser is open, you can see it's meant to look, feel, and act just like Business Central. So the idea here is we're blurring the lines between Business Central and EDI to give you that clear visibility into what is taking place from a transaction standpoint. So now that I'm looking at the Transaction Lifecycle Explorer, TLE, you can see here that it's an outbound purchase order to General Electric. You can see the date and time that we pulled from BC, and then exactly when we sent this purchase order to that vendor. You can see the PO number here and the status is complete. So we're trying to give you visibility from an EDI standpoint into exactly what has been transacted between you and your vendor. Now, from here, if we go back to Business Central, and let's say that I took a PO all the way through the process. So I'm going to go back in, we're going to open up this purchase order, and this purchase order has already been fulfilled. So now when I go into this PO, you're going to notice that there's now a number of fields that have been populated based on the inbound documents that we're receiving from our vendors. So when they send back the purchase order acknowledgement, for example, right here, we're going to update the vendor order number 452. When I receive in the ASN and we want to update the data points within Business Central, again, these are only examples, but we will pull in the vendor shipment number, and we'll populate that. We can also go down at the sales order line level, and we can update the planned receipt date for what the ASN is giving us for when we can expect to receive that order. We also update that under the invoice details too. And then ultimately, when you do receive in the invoice, we can populate the invoice number. So that way, then you can go in and post this purchase invoice. But again, up here on the top, we have the EDI tile. When I go in and look at the TLE, just to save time, now you can see all the transactions that have occurred since the releasing of this purchase order. So you have your PO acknowledgement. You can see all of these transactions have completed successfully, and they're all right there from the standpoint of complete visibility into what has taken place from an EDI standpoint. Now, going one additional step. So if I go to the vendor account card, to provide some additional visibility from the vendor's account card, again, you're going to notice you have the EDI tile. And underneath the EDI tile, we're going to present more data points. So if I want to see this vendor set up within the EDI environment, it's one click away. If I want to go in and look at all the transactions that have completed with this particular vendor, again, you're one click away, and then we're going to show you all the transactions that have been successful, whether we're sending those documents or we're receiving those documents. So in a second here, it's going to refresh, and then it's going to give me all the data points, transactions that we have sent as well as received. Lastly, one of the other elements that I wanted to cover, bear with me one second, move this out of the way, is the actual dashboard. So the dashboard within the EDI environment, this is really meant to be a landing page. And for anybody overseeing EDI within your organization, we're going to present all the key performance indicators that anybody overseeing EDI is going to want to see. So when you come into the dashboard, the first thing is that you can move these screens around so you can kind of make this your own environment. We're going to present a lot of the data points that anybody's going to want to see. If you don't like the look and feel, I can change this to, say, a donut. And then the real value prop here is that when I click on the data, we're actually going to pull up all the data points that show, for example, these outbound invoices that are currently in a hold status. So really from the standpoint of the overview demonstration, that's what I wanted to cover. So from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Judy, and we'll go ahead and wrap up.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sean. And on behalf of Sean and Kimber, we'd like to thank you for spending part of your DynamicsCon day with us. And if any of these sparked questions and you'd like to open up a discussion, my contact information is on the screen. We'd love to hear from you and engage. That being said, enjoy your DynamicsCon, everybody. Thank you.